subscribe, and ring the bell. Support the channel. Stay strong.
Why don't women have a burden of performance to become better partners if they don't want to be viewed as a mere sexual object?
I think we like sexuality and we are objects. We're all objects. And just take your role and go with it.
How would you feel if society expected women to always pay for men, open doors, and protect them physically, not as a choice but as a duty? Would that still feel like romance or feel like an unfair burden placed on women?
I feel like we need the men to do that for security
Why is it not an unfair burden when that's placed on men?
because that's the roles. It's gender roles. I give you the pussy and you open the door.
Hey guys, Paul here. Welcome back to Repairing the Manosphere. This is episode 5. And if I can get you to right away, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't. We're talking to the 5% of the 5% here, the men who took the red pill and kept thinking more like men who took the red pill and decided not to turn it into gynocentrism like much of the manosphere has. Got a great show for you tonight. We're talking to John from ItsComplicatedChannel. Just a short word about the Stinger video here. It's funny and it's common, but it's also what most men are facing in the dating market. One of the things John does that's so brilliant is that he just asks people questions and they end up telling the truth quite often. And you got the truth from that lady. And that's a truth that most men, are, especially young men, or men around that woman's age, have been facing in the dating market for some time now, which I think is why a whole lot of them are walking away. They're leaving the apps. They're not showing up to singles events. They're basically, many of them, young men, aren't even interested in dating now. The majority are not dating. They're just walking away from all of it. John gets that stuff out of people on the streets of Las Vegas at nighttime after the sun goes down and it's not so bloody hot. And with that, I would just going to go ahead and welcome John. Let's bring him in and get this show on the road. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
It's an honor to have you. A big fan of your work. Can't wait to dig into this conversation. I have to recall, though, I mean, there's going to be some payback tonight. When I went out to L.A. to shoot with John and Shaw, we had Matt Cross there. Caesar was there. John did an individual interview with me. And he gave me one rapid fire, brutal question after another. I had no room to breathe between answers before he was hitting me again. So I've got something for John tonight too. And he's got questions for me. We're going to let him just sort of do his wares here, which is asking the relevant questions. And I'm teasing him a lot, but I do want to say he asked me the best questions that I've ever been asked, the most relevant questions about this space that I've ever been asked by anybody. You know, typically I do interviews and people will ask me really, I mean, I've had some great interviews lately, but most of my experiences, people like, do you hate women? And sort of, why are you doing this kind of questions? John skips over all that BS and gets down to the heart of the matter. And I'm glad he's here tonight. So brother, the floor is yours. Go ahead and fire away and let's see what happens.
Well, first off, thank you, Paul. That's very high praise. I appreciate that. And, you know, a lot of people will typically ask, like, what was your introduction to the red pill? And you'll tell your story about, you know, reading Warren Farrell's Myth of Male Power, things like that. So I want to try to go into some deeper things that maybe haven't been asked before. So my first question is, Paul, you often argue that men and women are naturally meant to pair bond, but at the same time, you also describe the modern dating environment as hostile, dysfunctional, and full of red flags. Under these conditions, how realistic is it to tell men to make better choices if there may not be enough healthy people left to pair bond successfully in the current culture?
Well, another great question, but I run on the assumption that regardless of the horrific state of the dating environment right now, the horrific state of women right now, and quite honestly, the horrific state of men. I mean, I don't spare either sex, but the fact remains that men are going to want to pair bond, and it doesn't matter how bad things are. It doesn't matter whether there is a half of a percent chance of having success. Men are going to still go out there and try to do this. A lot of them are walking away right now, but a whole lot of men are still wired for this. And a lot of the guys that aren't dating now will be dating. They will be pursuing pair bonds. So I do encourage better choices. As a matter of fact, I most of my work is encouraging men to entertain the idea that they're actually making choices rather than just trying to be chosen. That part enough is hard enough to get across. But I don't think that pair bonding is going to end. It's going to keep happening. I want men to choose better than they choose, because what most men do is they just choose anybody that they're attracted to who will take them. And then they become sort of get bogged down in, how do I be more like what she wants to see? How do I make her happy? How do I make her smile? And then they end up sometimes 5 years down the road in a horrible divorce, losing their children, losing their property. Yeah, they need to make better choices. Very few women, I think, are suitable for pair bonding. But again, I have to stipulate all the time that very few men are suitable for pair bonding. If your idea of pair bonding is, let me go find a hot chick and see if she'll take me, if that's your mentality going into pair bonding, then you're not suitable either. I think it takes a much more thoughtful man to navigate this god-awful landscape and to land something. And if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well do it with your own interest in mind. There's my answer.
A lot of men will go for the first woman who says yes.
Yes, I would say most men.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them. That's the core problem here. It's why we're telling men to make better choices. It's one of the few things that tradcons get right. Of course, they screw it up after that. Tradcons say, make better choices, and then get out there and sweat and toil and destroy yourself to make that girl happy for the rest of her life, which is not much of a functional follow-up to make better choices.
Why do manosphere men want a woman in their life if they believe that she will never truly love him for himself?
That is a long, complicated question. It should be from It's Complicated. First, we have to define what love is. I mean, we are lost in that regard, I think, in this culture. We have confused lust with love. We confuse infatuation with love. I'm of the mind, and I think there's a lot of research that supports this, that love, actual companionate love, or what the Greeks called storge, is something that happens between a man and woman after many years together, after solving problems, resolving conflict, going through crises together, which life always tends to deliver, and coming out on the other side better instead of embittered toward each other. What happens in the romantic pair bond so often is that when that infatuation dies, people say, well, the love has died. I don't feel the same way anymore. So this must be a bad relationship. They don't stick it through the loss of infatuation, and then they get into their family of origin issues, and those conflicts arise from that. Everything feels terrible. All they're doing is butting heads. But I would argue that the reason for that is because they took this state of infatuation and all the promise that it had, because it makes you crazy. It makes you project into the future that everything is going to be like this all the time, when that's certainly not the way that it turns out. So they have that conflated with what love actually is, which takes a lot of time, a lot of actually getting to know somebody and dealing with life together as a team. And most people don't make it through that phase of the relationship. They break up, they end up hating each other, and they end up blaming each other because the infatuation, which is impossible to maintain long term, wasn't maintained.
You know, it's funny. It reminds me of a question that I ask. At what stage in a relationship is the honeymoon phase over? And when the honeymoon phase is over, does that mean the relationship is over?
What kind of answers did you get?
Well, I mean, some people believe that the entire relationship should be the honeymoon phase. And then you talk about infatuation, and it's just unrealistic to think that relationships are going to maintain this level of just, you know, you're floating on clouds and it just never evolves into more of a partnership and you're a team as opposed to just, you know, pedestalization and infatuation and as you're saying. So.
Well, and I think another thing that you add on to that is that, you know, two things happen when the infatuation ends and that passes in the relationship. One, you get men who get sick and tired of pedestalizing. They do. It gets weary on them. She constantly complains, wants him to do something, tells him he's not doing something right or that he's not doing it good enough or not doing it her way. And that sort of chronic irritation in the relationship eventually puts him off, and then he doesn't want to do anything for her, and it's hard to blame him. And women, on the other hand, the romantic model has given them such convoluted expectations of what men, they really think that this guy's supposed to be the white knight, making sure that she doesn't have a pea under her 10 mattresses to bruise her skin at night. And this stuff gets old. It gets really old, and it's trying on a relationship. If you keep putting unrealistic expectations of somebody else's romantic behavior for 20, 30, 40 years, they're going to get sick of that. You're going to have friction. It has to get a little bit more realistic. But unfortunately, we have both sexes right now with no realistic view whatsoever of what a relationship is supposed to be. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. It's actually getting quite a bit worse.
You even have a term called love bombing, where men will throw all sorts of these, you know, extravagant romantic gestures at a woman just to try to win her approval, her affection. And then, you know, a few months down the line, a few years down the line, all of a sudden the woman's saying, why aren't things the way they used to be? And, you know, then you're going to have to keep up that persona.
Well, let me first give credit where it's due. Love bombing is not my term. Love bombing, as far as I know, came from descriptions of the behavior of borderline personality women. They tell a guy, you're the best thing since sliced bread. I can't believe I met you. You're a god. You're the best. You're the most important thing in my life. I love you beyond words. And I'm going to have sex with you every 15 minutes to prove it. That's love bombing. And guess what, guys? You do the same thing. You go out and buy expensive gifts. You pay lavish compliments. You open doors. If she smokes, you light cigarettes. You make sure that her drink is never empty when you guys are out having fun. You do this, and you set them up to expect that this is the way they're going to be treated by you for life. Well, then when you get tired of it, she's disappointed. You know, I got to say, I don't blame her. If you led with your wallet and you led with chivalry, and now you're suddenly tired of doing it after 3 years in a relationship, well, that's the expectation that you've set. And of course, to be fair, sort of like the woman in the Stinger clip, I've got the hoo-hoo, so you've got to open the doors. That's their expectations of men. And I've seen this in John's work across the board. Women's expectations are absolutely insane about what they think men are supposed to do for them. And they have no use for men who won't. And only they're really super sexually attracted to the guys who treat them with disrespect and don't do any of that stuff. So that's the kind of convoluted world we're getting into and trying to pair bond these days. As a matter of fact, while we're here, Brian, can we go ahead and run clip number 1?
right, yep, it's ready to go. Let's see if the sound works.
So who do you think are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, men or women?
Men, because they're more dominant.
Yeah, but who typically pays on a first date?
Men.
Who's typically expected to approach?
Men.
Who typically buys the drinks at nightclubs?
Men.
Who typically gets down on one knee?
Men.
Isn't that all traditional male behavior?
I think a girl loves it, and a girl loves to be chased.
Once again, who are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, men or women?
It's a good question because women expect it when men don't want to do it all the time. But men get the benefit of going out of their way to do their gender roles.
So would you say that women are the biggest enforcers of gender roles? Would you agree with that?
No.
You said women expect it though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, does a man necessarily have to expect a woman to do traditional things to be with him? Or?
Oh, nowadays, no. Women don't want to cook, clean, provide for the family. It's definitely different.
So
2026.
once again, how are women not the biggest enforcers of gender roles?
I don't think they're subtle enforcers. Like, it's expected.
Well, right, but you're saying that women expect men to be in their roles, but women don't want to be in their roles. So to me, that
Which
sounds
is sad.
like it is sad, but my point is, it sounds like women are enforcing gender roles more than men are. Is that true?
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
So if women are the biggest enforcers of gender roles, how are women not the biggest enforcers of patriarchy? The very thing they demonize men for.
I don't know. I'm in a healthy relationship, so I can't really speak on that.
I could just feel her beginning to hate your guts as that conversation went on. But
Yeah,
I think that it supports the point. This is, you know, they're so oblivious to it, but this is what women want. It's what they expect. And at the same time, they demonize men for it. And they go for the guy on the Harley that won't give them a time of day. Just interesting. Anyway, I interrupted your questions, but I thought that was a good one to throw in here.
Well, I was just going to follow up and also add, I've asked women before, have you ever noticed a man's behavior will change after he gets what he wants? And they'll say yes. I'm like, okay, so isn't chivalry all about getting laid?
Hey.
And you know, if that's the case, you know, why make a man wait? You know, the sooner you give it up, the sooner you'll know if he actually likes you for you, if he sticks around, you know?
Hey, well, pass that along. I'm sure a lot of guys would love women getting that advice. And there's plenty that are already taking it. There's plenty of women that jump into bed right away with guys that they don't even like the guy.
Well, it's also a double-edged sword because obviously if a woman is easy, then some guys will think, you know, I'm the special one she'll break rules for, versus other men who will look and say she does this for every guy. So it just depends. That can be interpreted multiple ways.
Agreed. Next question.
Do you have a question for me before we proceed, or should I continue?
Let's let you continue, and then I'm gonna rapid fire mine.
Okay, all right. Okay.
We're not spacing this out.
All right, here's the next one. Okay. If women's behavior is primarily biological and unchanging, why do red pill influencers spend so much time discussing cultural changes like feminism and social media?
Oh man, I love this question. I've been saying for years that, I mean, and this is for the biodeterminist hacks out in the manosphere that say this is all programmed, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, if it's genetically programmed and there's nothing you can do about it, why do we have so many men going their own way? Why do we have so many content creators out there saying, take the red pill and then you'll do different, you'll do better? The fact is that all these behaviors, as far as I can tell, I've been digging into this with Peter Wright for a long time. Shout out to Peter. Recent conversations with Shaw, with people like John. This stuff is cultural. It's always been cultural. It's not biogenetic. Hypergamy is a two-way street. Men were hypergamous for ages until we adopted the romantic model. And then guess what? We changed to one-way hypergamy, unilateral hypergamy from women, and men gave up their hypergamy and started just trying to be chosen by women as their moral superiors. That was never part of human programming. It's a cultural change that men have adopted. And now we see in the manosphere that most of these guys take the red pill and turn it into a blue pill so they can go chase women's romantic approval. That's not changed. That is staying the same. Maybe that's why they think it's biogenetic, because they cannot possibly imagine their lives as having meaning outside what they get from their reflection in a woman's eyes. I think that's the problem there, and I hope I've answered your question, John.
Just the follow-up to that was, and if culture matters that much, why reduce historical and modern dating patterns to biology?
Well, I think one, because it sells. What happens is you're selling certainty. This is biogenetic, which means if you do ABC, you're going to get XYZ. And, some of the stuff is fairly predictable. It's like my discussion with Matt Cross. A lot of the techniques of PUAs work. I mean, there's certainly enough of this cultural behavior in human society that based on that alone, that these techniques will work. But that doesn't mean that they're rooted genetically. It does mean that they're fairly predictable and responsive. And this is what you get when you have a product that says, look, we totally unlocked the code, dude. We've got it. Just lift, bro. Get out there and cold call. Do this, do that. Toss an egg. Do a little push-pull. Trigger her abandonment issues, and she won't be able to help herself. Well, it's reliable enough to have some effect, I think, generally on the worst possible women that you can select. These techniques work. Women with self-respect and with boundaries, and there are some still out there. I know there's not a lot, but they do exist. I have one. I know other men who have women like that. Those women don't respond to this stuff well. They smell manipulation and gaming from a mile off, and they want nothing to do with it. And for the guys that are taking the red pill prescription, the biogenetic Evo Psych stuff, that's good enough for them. They'll just be one of the ones that didn't respond, but the code is still broken, and the next one probably will. I think it's all a ruse. It's all a ruse. It sells because sex sells. And this is what the red pill manosphere is selling, is sex. They're not selling self-actualization. They do it. Sometimes they put on the clothing of self-improvement, but it's not really self-improvement. It's seeking validation through women because there's no core in there to validate your own identity, to validate your own life without having that mirrored back from a female.
One thing that confuses me about the manosphere is that everyone seems to use the same words but mean different things. Terms like masculinity, hypergamy, equality, chivalry, and traditional values are often defined differently depending on who's speaking. With so many competing perspectives, from PUA to MRA to MGTOW, Black Pill, and TradCon voices, how can anyone know what to believe or which definitions are actually valid?
This I actually have the concrete answer for. You watch Repairing the Manosphere. You'll get all the correct answers of what those things mean without any deviation whatsoever. Watch John's videos. They'll put it in action for you on the streets, and you'll see what you hear here played out on those streets. No, I'm kidding. These words are hard to define, some of them. I mean, it's hard to define what masculinity is. And where I ended up going with that is very simple. The problem with there's a problem with defining masculinity to begin with, because once you define what a real man is, God, I just love that term, especially when people use it unironically. A real man, once the world defines that for you, then they own you. This is how we get people to go into combat, to sacrifice their lives for terrible women. I've seen men that literally work themselves to death for the worst possible woman you could imagine. And the whole ethos behind it is that this is what a real man is supposed to do. And so once you let society decide what masculinity or what manhood is, you're sunk in my book. It's how we got people into, and I mentioned this before, it's how we got people into World War I in England. We had the Pankhurst sisters running around issuing white feathers of cowardice, really essentially telling them, you're not men. You're a coward. You're not a man. And these guys would go into the meat grinder over that feather. Absolutely amazing. That's how powerful owning the definition of masculinity is. So where I settled on masculinity is that my masculinity is exactly what I say it is. Nobody else on this planet has a say in the matter. Nobody, no other men, no women. Society doesn't have a say. And it's kind of liberating, honestly. As to the other stuff, you hear people talking about chivalry, and how many of them know the history of chivalry? How many of them know how we actually adopted that into our society? Most don't. They have what they got from 1950s Hollywood ethics that tell them what chivalry is, and then they reduce it. I love it when they say, well, it's really so simple. It's not about the man being second all the time. It's just about buying a drink or paying for dinner or opening a door for a woman. No, it's not. It's about an ethic where the man always comes in second. As a matter of fact, I had an exchange on Twitter recently with a woman who tried to explain this very thing to me, that chivalry really wasn't a big deal. Never mind that guys get killed, intervening in strangers' lives when they're in trouble, practicing chivalry. She says it's just opening doors, and she mentioned one other thing. It's about letting women go first. So my question to her, which she never answered, is why do men have to come in second where it comes to you? Why are you always first? What about you is so special that you're to always be put first in all situations? And of course, she didn't answer that. I think her definition of chivalry and mine are very different, as you were pointing out in your question. But I think mine's a little more accurate, and that's the one I'm going with.
Why is the manosphere overwhelmingly conservative, and why are progressive red pill voices so rare?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the feminism comes from the left. That's its stronghold. So you're not going to get a lot of honest dialogue about men's issues within a feminist sphere. It's just not going to happen there. So I think they're quiet. And I know a communist who's totally red pill. I'm not saying that it's one of our XY crew members, absolute communist, totally one of the most red pill guys I've ever seen in my life. But he is an outlier by far. I think conservatives are at least open to criticizing feminism, but you also see in the feminist camp that the moment gynocentrism comes up, or romantic chivalry, or critique of this, conservatives are always going on and on about small government and getting the government out of our lives. That's very big to them. And they're the first ones that say you must sign a contract with the state to control and govern your relationship when you get married. So I question a lot of their conservative ideals too. They want the state involved in their homes, in their marriages, and that's generally because they're practicing a form of chivalry that says, I must lay my neck on a chopping block for a woman to have a legitimate marriage. I think they're personally crazy. I don't think they're any better for this discussion than the left is.
Look at someone like Scott Galloway. Scott Galloway, identifies with the liberal side, and yet he's preaching the same script. It's all about, masculinity, performance, protect, provide, right? So is he really all that different than the tradcons?
I would say no.
Still gynocentric?
It's still gynocentric, and that's the thing that unifies them. The feminists and the tradcons should be having orgies together. They are peas in a pod if I ever saw them. I don't know why they're not better friends and why they're attacking each other. They're practicing the same ethic all the time.
But look at the manosphere. The manosphere is overwhelmingly conservative. So aren't they also preaching a lot of the same tradcon talking points?
The manosphere is overwhelmingly gynocentric.
There you
It's
go.
all about women. I mean,
Mhm.
this is the unifying thread. So
Mhm.
we've got these alleged different camps. You've got leftist feminist over here, and then to the right you have the tradcons, the conservatives. Oh, and then you've got the red pill guys. They're really different. And all three groups run on gynocentrism. They run on men having an identity that is directly tied to women's approval and
Mhm.
nothing else. They are not different from each other. They're battling each other's illusions all the time.
Why does the manosphere seem to want contradictory things from women? Working women are criticized as boss babes, but stay-at-home women are criticized as dependent. Men are told to want traditional women who rely on them, yet also complain about alimony, child support, and women lacking accountability. How can you criticize women for lacking agency while promoting a model that makes men dependent on men?
That's why I'm gold pill, baby, all the way. I mean, and again, it goes back to the gynocentrism. This is a sort of a schizophrenia in the red pill space about, women don't contribute anything. They're lazy. They don't. I don't want a woman with a job. And it's absolutely, they shame women for that. I think they're out of their ever loving minds. They want everything and nothing. It's actually very feminine, what I see in a lot of the manosphere. It's like the woman that says, I want a kind, gentle man that is emotionally available and cares about my feelings and is a good listener and does things for me. And then the guy they're having sex with is nothing like that. I see the same parallel in that sort of dichotomy that I do in the manosphere with guys criticizing. And a lot of it, I think guys are afraid that they can't keep women, and they're afraid if they have jobs, they'll meet other men. I wanted a woman with a job. It's like, if you can't show up and be a contributing, significant contributor to the relationship, why would I bother with you? But that stuff doesn't sell in the manosphere. That's why Rollo has 200,000 subscribers and I have 100,000. It's because there is a big difference in what men want to hear. And I encourage men to start listening to the fact, man, think down the road. It may seem really juicy and appealing to have some hot girl waiting for you at home every day when you get home. It ain't going to be that way in 10 years. And there will be bills to pay. Get a woman who earns and who understands that she has to contribute. That's a part of better choosing.
What value does the dowry conversation offer to the 80% of invisible men who can't even attract a woman?
Probably not much, but I do think it's a powerful and important discussion, mainly because it debunks the notion of one-way unilateral female hypergamy that floats around this sort of just so stories that Peter Wright coined, and it's just the way it is. This is there's nothing you can do about it. That is baloney. There's plenty that you can do about it. And talking about dowry, pointing out historical practice that has always been part of human society as far back as we can measure. We've got relationships that are societies all based on pair bonds, and all based on pair bonds where mutual benefit was at the center. It wasn't, what does the man do to provide and how well does he take care of the woman? That's the romantic ethic. The ethic for almost all of human history was, what do you both show up with, and how's this going to benefit both of your families? How's it going to benefit the family you create to get together? What do you bring to the table? So having the dowry discussion, which is why I really appreciate Shaw's work so much, having that discussion out there gives people at least guys that are interested in the truth about this stuff, it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute. Why am I buying this one-way hypergamy thing from women when it's a brand new practice on the scale of human existence? It's only been here for a couple of 100 years. And we actually go back quite a bit further than that in a very different structure of society that involved female agency as much as male agency.
Yeah, and I believe that Peter Wright, shout out to him, even mentions there was something called dowry hunters.
Yes, yes. These were young, wily men that would spot, and even at the time, and a lot of this comes out of Victorian England, where these guys would know who was rich and even stage fake robberies and stuff like that to rescue the woman so she would fall in love with her rescuer and bring her fortune. This is how men used to think. They would say, they would ask the question, what's in this for me? And pursue it, other than her being pretty. And men would often, there were lots of pretty women that could not find husbands because they did not have dowries. Beauty did not have near the emphasis that it does today. Today, a beautiful woman, she just walks out on the street and she could look at her watch for a couple of minutes before guys start approaching. This is a new way of being in the world, and it's gone to their heads in ways that are absolutely insane. I think it's a really valuable discussion to have. Women, you need to show up with your purse and your sleeves rolled up. There's no free rides, or you may get one, but you'll pay for that too.
I call that the power of the purse.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we have articles, receipts to prove. I mean, there's actually an article that says dowry of beauty, where during the romantic ethos taking over, you can see where it was saying, oh, these women have enough dowry, just that their beauty is enough to bring to the table.
That was when they started using the media to interject this ethic that, the British used to view the French as archaic and sort of savages because they still practiced dowry. And it was the English who said a woman's beauty is sufficient dowry. And they started pushing that in the media, and people glommed onto it. And here we are today.
Has anything changed? The media has always been the problem. It still is.
I think the media is a reflection of society. We're the problem. I mean,
Yes.
All you got to do is, folks, go to It's Complicated and subscribe to that channel. And the next time you feel like doom scrolling, go through his shorts, and you're going to get exactly what you're hearing from the media right off of the street. And I don't think.
Speaking of that, it's funny because when I do my interviews, most of the time people are so quick to blame social media. Social media is the problem, and I'm saying, why are we blaming a platform for what people say on it? I mean, if you and I have an argument over the phone, do we blame the telephone or the people having the conversation?
Well, of course. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. I think we also do have to consider that the sort of anonymous nature of people communicating on social media platforms sort of disinhibits them quite a bit. It's where you get a lot of trolls and other stuff, but people tend to speak a little bit more honestly, I think, on social media. But it's not the platform doing that to them. They're telling the truth, and they're talking about the way they see the world. And 5 minutes on Twitter will tell you just how screwed up that really is.
The Manosphere often says men should improve for themselves, not for women. If that's the case, why are MGTOW men generally accepted living modest, low-status lives, while men who want relationships are pressured to become exceptional? Isn't that a contradiction?
Of course it is. Gosh. It is. I don't buy the I'm self-improving for myself. That's like when I hear women say, I'm wearing this super low-cut blouse that reveals half my breasts and shorts that have my ass cheeks hanging out of the bottom. I'm doing that for me. I'm not trying to get male attention. these guys that claim they're doing it for, and some of them are. I mean, that's what I recommend. I think you should work out for yourself. I think men should focus their lives on how much value they can find in it without a woman. It's why I recommend that all guys go MGTOW for a while to find themselves outside of women's approval. But these guys that are saying, yeah, I'm working out for me, and the side benefit is that it attracts women. Well, that may be true, but then you have to ask the question, if it didn't attract women, would you be doing it? And the fact is that I don't believe a lot of those guys would, because their whole ethos is about attracting and appealing to women.
In fact, I have a question related to that. Who's more delusional, sexy women who dress for themselves or high-level men who improve for themselves?
Well, you do sort of have to take some of these things on an individual basis. Some guys get high level, they're doing it for themselves. There's guys that barely have the time of day for women because they are doing it for themselves. But there is a rat race around female approval. Men try to get better jobs because they think it'll get them better women. They try to make more money because it'll get them more selection of women. They study peacocking. They try to become the most successful, robust man they can, all with the idea of attracting women. And then they get, early age heart disease. They get stress-related diseases. They join this rat race trying to be a quote-unquote success, and they end up unhealthy. Those guys still end up in broken marriages and broken homes. They have all the same problems any other man has. It doesn't change a thing. And I think you can tell a lot about a guy. If you've got a really successful guy and his wife is taking, $1 billion from him in a divorce, when she didn't earn $1 the whole time they were married, he wasn't just doing things for himself. He didn't value himself enough to get a more suitable partner in life, a more suitable woman. And so with a lot of those guys, I'm just not buying it. I mean, get rich if you want to. I think it's wonderful for guys who make money. But if you're chasing that out of this sort of thoughtless evolutionary impulse to succeed and to excel and to achieve status, there's a price to pay for that. And my suggestion to men is to think carefully before you decide to pay it.
I mean, would you need to grind on such an extreme level and have all these flashy cars and all these, designer labels if it wasn't trying to impress people?
Well, that, and there's also the ethic that's drilled into men from birth. It's never enough. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to do more. You make $300K a year, you should be making $4. You could be making $5 if you just worked harder, if you just put more into it, if you sacrificed more of the things that are really important to better living and health, and work 60, 80 hours a week all the time, wear yourself out, and then put on a $3,000 Armani suit and go look good in a nightclub for an hour before you go home and crash. I think it's a horrible way to live. But look, some guys will thrive on that. I'm not questioning that. It's definitely not going to work for me.
And just following up on that question, if MGTOW men are shamed, why do they ignore historically great men who died virgins? We're talking about men like Leonardo da Vinci and Sir Isaac Newton and Nikola Tesla.
Well, sure. And those guys, and there were many others. There's been a lot of world-changing bachelors, MGTOWs, guys that went their own way. Albert Einstein wrote that he dabbled in women and stuff like that. For the most part, he didn't have anything to do with them. He was too busy for them. And he revolutionized our thought about reality. That's been his effect. I think what society does is it conveniently forgets that these guys were MGTOW. They look at the accomplishments and probably fill in the blanks. Oh, there was a wife and kid at home and whatever, but I don't even have to think about that because I'm so impressed by this individual's life. And I think they shrug it off. When you do point out, as I have many times, Tesla was a MGTOW for sure. A lot of these other guys were. There's just sort of a shrug. And I think that they just minimize it in their heads and move on.
It's not that different than dismissing the dowry ethic. They just don't seem to acknowledge history.
And that's what people do. I mean, we're talking to a fractional audience on our podcast. Even the more prominent people like Rollo and others that have a lot of subscribers, we're talking still to a very small minority of people, and most of them do not want to know. I mean, when you start looking at the romantic ethic and you happen to be a guy that's married based on romance, and it starts making you look at your own behavior and the things you do and the resentments that you have that you never talk about because you know it's only going to get worse if you try to talk about it. You guys know what I'm talking about. You get that going in action, and people want to shut down from the truth. And I think that is one of our biggest obstacles, is that the investment in the romantic ethos is so great, and the investment of identity that's put into it is so great that you're telling guys, man, you got to strip away everything and start over. And they just don't want to do that.
How did we go from the free love movement of the 1960s to today, where men have to compensate women for their time and attention? In other words, how did we go from friends with benefits to sleeping with the enemy?
Well, I was alive in the 60s, and I can tell you that love was not free. Sex was freer. I mean, there were, I think, more opportunities. Plus, even in the 60s, early 70s, women still generally liked men for the most part. They were generally attracted to men and liked them, and there wasn't all this animus between the sexes. I think we got there due to what I call tertiary romance. The romance pattern has been first established as a sort of a courtly, knightly ethic in the treatment of women. It progressed into romance. Then it progressed into feminism. And, feminism is just an extension of romance. Women take primacy. Women are most important. Their issues are most important. They come first, just like the lady told me online. Women come first. That's the ethic. And you take an entire class of people and you tell them their poo doesn't stink and that they're right about everything, and that we really need to listen to the feminine wisdom that's in the world. And if women ran the world, there would be no wars, and the moral bankruptcy of corporate America would end overnight if women were running things. This is the sort of delusions that we set up, and I think that underneath the underlying all of that, you have the absolute fact that without men, women would perish. All of them. They have zero survivability without men providing the lifeline of the things that keep them alive. I think they resent that quite a bit without talking about it, because they would have to acknowledge that they depend on men, whether it's men's money being extracted by the state and redistributed to women, or whether it's child support, alimony, or through a relationship. All women depend on men. They won't survive without them. I think they resent that. Feminism gave an area, a space for women to express that resentment, to popularize it. And it is much like romance. It's spread like wildfire. So even though we have a small number of women who are actually admit to being feminists, they're all feminists. And almost all men are too. It's turned into self-loathing for men. So we went from an age where men and women kind of liked each other. We had differences, and there was some talking about women are this and men are that. But generally, there was a good, solid connection. People wanted to get married. They wanted to have families, have children. That is a bygone era. And I think, again, we can blame feminism for that. I know trad cons do. but it's the underlying romantic chivalry that drives it.
Why were women of the past fighting to save men from dying in war, but women of today aren't fighting to protect men from self-deletion? Now, you bring up the White Feather campaign, but look at Vietnam.
Well, what about Vietnam?
Well, in Vietnam, weren't there women marching to bring the boys back home?
Oh, yeah, there were protests against the war by men and women. It wasn't just a woman thing, although there was a lot of women. But I don't believe for a moment that those women gave a damn about men. I think they were politically involved. I think it was about image. They wanted to, back then it was being a flower child and being free and wonderful. And they wanted to put that on for the world. There were some serious anti-war advocates. But you know what? Guess what? Those same anti-war advocates from the 60s are now stupid old white hippies that like wars as long as they're being waged by Democrats. So how seriously I'm going to take them? Not very.
And why did women of the past, who supposedly had less rights, also have less resentment of men than the women of today?
Because they knew where their bread came from, I believe. I think there was, what's happened with technology is that it has distanced women from needing to know what makes them survive. They sit in cushy, air-conditioned, climate-controlled buildings in comfortable chairs, on computers that men built, in buildings that men built, using toilets that men installed and sewage systems that run only because of men. Their products and goods only come, but it's a DoorDash driver bringing it. Women used to have visible cues around them a lot about where their survival was coming from. They knew it, but they've grown detached. And with the help of feminism and with the help of just a lot of social ignorance, they become more and more detached. The women you talk to on your channel, the women I see out on social media now, are just don't need a man. Without men, the world will be a better place. And they genuinely have no idea what a nightmare the world would become quickly. The power grid would go down in hours if men suddenly went somewhere. There would be chaos. And then there would be a bunch of very, very fat, tattooed bull dykes running the streets, taking away resources from everybody, from all the women that are left. And they have no concept that this is exactly what would happen. They have insulated themselves from reality nearly completely.
According to the Manosphere, if women aren't accountable because of their female nature, why bother shaming them or even be upset about it?
Well, I don't really think shaming women is a necessarily good practice either. I mean, I see some wisdom in it in some ways. The only reasons that I criticize women is that I want to point out to men what they're dealing with in women, because so many men stay unconscious of this stuff, or they believe this is just the way things are. If I complain about her disrespecting me, she's only going to disrespect me more, and she's going to escalate it. And then I could end up in problems. Then I could get a divorce. Then I could be wiped out. So I better keep my mouth shut. I want to point out this behavior because it's an opportunity for men to reassess what they're going to live with and what they're not going to live with in life. I don't take any great joy in picking on women. As a matter of fact, I know I get some criticism for saying this, but I really believe women have become monsters that men created. We are totally culpable. And, you know, you see it online, it's the boomers. No, it's not, you idiot. It's every generation simps. Every generation simps for women. Every one of them is following the romantic ethic and getting on their knees in front of women and creating these narcissistic demons and then saying, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. I beg to differ. There is something you can do about it in your life. If you've got a narcissistic demon, get rid of her. I don't care what the rules are. Get rid of her. Start taking responsibility for your life. And the next time you meet a narcissistic demon, get rid of her and just start getting rid of unhealthy people, male and female, until your life is surrounded by support and people that are actually good for you. Imagine that, doing something like that. I don't, the whole sort of, oh, it's the boomers and there's nothing you can do about it. That's just a bunch of weak crap to me. It really is.
And since we talk a lot about double standards, would it ever make sense to complain about double standards if men and women are biologically different? It's essentially, what determines which double standards are acceptable and which ones aren't?
Well, I don't have to worry about double standards because I don't live with them. There are double standards out there, and I can certainly, if I wanted to dedicate a podcast to just the double standards, the unfair stuff, I could go into feminist female whining mode and bemoan everything that's not fair to men. This, oh, it's the family courts and this and the sentencing disparity. And you know what? All that stuff is true and nobody cares. The world doesn't care. The world's not going to care a bit, no matter what you do. You can scream this. I've been doing this for 20 years, folks, in terms of the men's activism. And I can assure you, the world does not care about the double standards. You can care about the double standards. You can tell a woman who's trying to practice a double standard with you, like she always goes first, you always go second. You can say, I don't do that. And that double standard is eliminated. It's an action you can take right then and there, anytime you want to in your life. And if you're living with a woman that is expecting things from you that she doesn't give, so that there's a double standard in that, you can tell her too bad. And that if she doesn't like it, there's the door. Men won't do that. I mean, and I think this is where a lot of this sort of feigned helplessness comes in. This is just the way women are. It must be biogenetic. There's nothing men can do about it. I'm not buying any of that. When I quit living like a simp, and I lived like a simp for the first half of my adult life, from 18 to 40. I lived like a simp, and I have nobody to blame but myself. I made horrible decisions because I wanted women's approval. I did it to myself, and here I am now. I don't have double standards that I have to contend with. I hear them from other people. I recognize that they are out there, but do they affect me? No. So it's like, it's a waste of breath to me to drone. I think it's good to maybe point them out sometimes if you're debating ideas and stuff, but this whole fixation on how unfair things are to men, man, you live in the world you create, and until you accept that, you're not getting anywhere.
Paul, you say there are no victims, only volunteers. If a system is unfair, should the goal be to adapt to it or change it, and why?
Well, I tried my hand at changing it a little bit early in the days, and again, I found it pointless. But I'm maintaining, and I know this sounds like starts sounding like just a regurgitated mantra after a while about no victims, volunteers. Men can avoid, I would say, guaranteed almost all of the problems that marginalize men, that put them on the outs with the decisions they make in their lives. If they decide to get a legal contract and marry the state instead of looking at the reality that is a very unwise decision, then okay, that's your choice. I suppose I'll say I respect it if you knowingly want to go in and do this. But down the road, if there's a divorce and you get wiped out and you lose a home that you put everything into and you can't see your kids anymore and they're being alienated from you, at some point, you got to recognize that that's on you. Whatever she did wrong, obviously, is on her. But we don't live in 1970 anymore. We have the internet. People have the opportunity to know that the state gives a rigged contract against men. You can protect your rights with better decisions. If that crazy borderline that is so hot in bed, but you could see from a mile off with the 18 pounds of mascara that she has on and the flash dance outfit that she's wearing, then maybe you should stay away from her. But men don't do that. They go attention seeking and approval seeking from women. They'll take it wherever they can get it, especially if the woman's hot. And then they'll end up, oh, false accusation? Well, God, who could have seen that coming? The truth is, you could have seen it coming if you would have exercised a little bit of discretion, a little bit of discernment with who you're choosing to hook up with.
Why is change yourself called empowerment in some movements, but victim blaming in others?
Well, I think it's called victim blaming by people with victim mentality. If the idea that you need to change offends you so much, even though your own decisions and own behavior has caused tons of problems in your life, then I would argue you have a victim identity. You prefer to see yourself as the poor downtrodden person that didn't ask for any of this. You had all the best intentions in the world. And yeah, you didn't screen. You didn't use any discernment. You hooked up with a woman who was giving you more red flags than a Chinese parade. And you did it anyway. And it's all her fault. It's all the state's fault. It's all everybody's fault. And if you insinuate that I have any role in this, that I have a responsibility, then you're victim blaming. Well, then call me a victim blamer. I was a victim once. I know what it feels like. And I know I blamed everything but myself for years. And if you ever write me an email, ask me how blaming everybody else but me worked out for me. I can tell you right now, it didn't work out very well.
Very inspiring words. And if adaptation is the answer, under what circumstances would challenging an unjust system ever be justified?
Well, I think it's justified to challenge it now. I mean, if that's what you want to do, in a broader sense, we're challenging that system now just by having this conversation. But you have to remember too, these systems, ask any guy that's actually been through the ringer in family court how much power they have. These things, these are courtrooms that operate like star chambers. They don't allow cameras. They don't have appeals the judges say is final. He's invited to interpret the actual law, even gender neutral laws. He can interpret them any way that he wants, and there's nothing you could do about it. You could even get the laws changed, and you'll have chivalrous judges issuing statements that totally destroy men in an unfair way. Honestly, it's the biggest civil rights rollback since Jim Crow, our family courts. That's what's going on in them. And I wish they would shut down. I think the only solution for them is bulldozers. But it is what it is. So I think you got to ask yourself, do I want to spend the next however much time trying to break through a 12-inch steel wall with my head? Or do I just want to make better choices and get back to my life in a healthy way? I don't want to miss out on any more of these clips. Brian, can we roll number 2 before the next question?
You got it. Let's do it. Hold on a second here. So let's do a quick refresh.
When it comes to dating and relationships, who is typically seen as the prize, the man or the woman?
The woman.
Ooh, the woman for sure.
The woman.
The woman.
The woman.
So if the woman is the prize, what would that make the man?
The wallet.
Yeah.
Doesn't that place the man at a lower value and status to the woman?
Yes.
Don't women typically want to date a man on her level or higher?
Yes.
So don't women typically want to date a man who's a prize and not a loser?
No, I like to be better.
So if a woman declares herself the prize, isn't that relationship destined to fail?
No, because I know I'm a prize. And so I think that a man should value me for what I am.
Okay, we're getting some truth bombs here. And this is again what I love about your work so much, John. She's just calling it like she sees it. And you notice there is actually zero concern about appearing like a narcissistic idiot or being overinflated about her self-worth. This for her, she's talking in her natural voice with no concerns whatsoever about judgment because she knows she's not going to get judged. Well, she's getting judged now. But in her mind, this is the way things are. This is perfectly normal and natural. So I think they bought the genetic stuff too. They think that that they are the prize and that's all there is to it, and that the man is the wallet.
Yeah, you're basically pointing out the lack of self-awareness that I discovered in people early on when I started doing this. And people would never challenge these ideas. They would just accept this is normal. This is the script that we all follow. And then it's like, okay, well, why does that make any sense? And then their brain malfunctions.
It does. And you saw her when you challenged her thinking, her eyes rolled up and to the right. And that's generally a sign in people that they're accessing the creative center of their brain, trying to come up with an answer that somehow overcomes your devastating question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, just or other ways that I'll follow up with that. It's like, okay, so if the woman's the prize, what happens when women date women? Are they both the prize? And, so it's absurd. It's clown world.
Yeah. When women date women, they're still in need of a wallet.
Yeah. Or the more masculine one. They'll either split the bills, or the more masculine one basically takes on all the responsibilities.
Don't doubt it. Next question.
Oh, okay. How does being physically stronger benefit men if they're burdened with being a protector and utility, the liability of being a potential predator, and can't be seen as victims? Doesn't strength actually work against men?
I'm going to have to say I don't think so. I think it serves men. Look, in my home with my wife, I am the protector. Any problems we have here will be dealt with through me. And I want physical strength for that. That's why I work out, and it's why I've got a lot of guns. I'm going to deal with those situations. So I think it advantages me, but I'm not burdened by being a provider. I provide. I certainly cover myself, and I provide things for the home. We share these things. So it's not. I mean, just making it in life, I guess you could call a burden. We all have to work, unless we're trust fund babies or something like that. We all got to work, and it is a burden. But when you share that with somebody, it's less of a burden. So I think men's physical strength works for them. It works for self-defense as much as it does protecting somebody that you care about. But this whole burden of being a provider, look, and I know some great guys who are married, who are the breadwinners in their home, but I still say, and I respect those guys, but I still say it's a sucker's deal. This is 2026. Women are out earning men. They're more employed than men. They're getting more educated than men. And they're still sitting here like this woman that you got that we just watched. They're just wallets. And my money's my money. I'm not buying that stuff at all.
So then following up on that, if men should protect because they're physically stronger, why shouldn't the woman pay all the bills? Why should both duties be assigned to the man when women are biologically capable of at least being a provider?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think I'll take that up with my wife tonight after the show and say, wait a minute here. Somebody breaks in. I'm the one that's got to ante up the body to take care of this thing. So maybe you should just cover everything. I don't know what kind. I'll come back next week and let you guys know how that conversation goes.
I mean, I don't know if things will ever be 100% 50-50, but we can
No.
definitely dial back the gynocentric dial a little bit. You know, how about that?
I know that when I met my wife, like I've talked about before, I went through a bunch of women. I told them all I'm not a sugar daddy, and that was enough to run most of them off. It took a little more work to run some others off, but I had that conversation with her, and it made perfect sense to her. She was raised by a good father who taught her a work ethic and taught her responsibility. It's amazing how much difference that makes in the quality of a woman if they come from that kind of family. That's why the same women that rejected me for not being a sugar daddy were the same ones bitching about their fathers and their last 5 boyfriends who weren't perfect enough for them. Not buying it.
You're not even a real man just for asking a woman to contribute something.
Yeah, well, and that's the deal. And if that's somebody's impression of a real man, trademark it, man. Put it on there. But get yourself a little donkey outfit and start strapping her stuff on your back and walking around on your hands and knees. If that's the life you want, that's fine with me. It doesn't change anything I'm doing.
Does a strong man take abuse, or does a weak man take abuse?
A weak man takes abuse. A man without boundaries takes abuse. That's one of the most, I think, horrible parts of this whole romantic ethic and this whole god-awful evo-psych nonsense of that's just the way women are, is it trains men to think there's nothing they can do about it, that they have to take disrespect. And this whole podcast, the reason that I'm doing that is because I don't think the modern manosphere offers men a way out of that kind of thinking. I think it reinforces it and teaches that kind of thinking. And that kind of thinking is BS to me. You don't have to live that way. It's okay to have, it's not just okay to have boundaries. You'll never be whole without them. You'll never be a complete or self-actualized person without boundaries, without limits on how you're treated. And if you just learn to shrug off disrespect and say, oh, that's just the way women are, brother, your soul dies a little bit every time you do that. And it's a shame. You don't have to be abused by anybody. Not your bosses, not your wife, not anybody, not your family of origin. And we teach men to take abuse. And it isn't just trad cons doing it. It's not just red pill guys in the manosphere. We've been teaching men to take abuse ever since we had the romantic ethic installed, which meant that women were more important than us, more superior than us, and could basically say anything they want, and they would determine whether we were worthwhile or not. That's the setup. And now we have a society full of narcissistic, abusive women that think it's perfectly fine just to crap all over a man, treat him like dirt, and if he doesn't like it, somebody else will come take her stuff down the road. And look, they're right. Somebody else will come and take it. The moment the guy has the guts to say, that's it, I'm walking out, there'll be a replacement. I would suggest not letting that matter to you. You can't replace yourself. And if you surrender it to an abusive woman, it's a self-inflicted wound.
Are men more weak because they simp for women, or because they don't fight for their rights?
I don't think you have to, quote unquote, fight for your rights in order to not simp for women. Or another way we could sort of log into that is to say that not simping is fighting for your rights. If you refuse to simp, you're taking care of who you are. You're taking care of your boundaries and probably taking care of your rights too. I've counseled thousands of men over the last 40 years, and I honestly never met a single one whose life got totally, the apple cart got totally overturned and their life became totally disrupted, that it didn't start with simping. Every time. this is how men should defend their rights, is by becoming more whole and more rational about who they are and what they'll take. But again, we could have a long discussion about that, but we're going to get to my questions before long here. How many more do you have?
Just like 2 more.
Okay. Let's go ahead and run another clip, Brian, if we could.
Oh, this one. This is great.
What are your thoughts on the following statement? Dating for women is like shopping, while dating for men is like a job interview that he's paying for.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
We feel like they're runner-ups and contestants.
If women have an abundance of choices, would women ever enter an arrangement where they weren't knowingly in control?
No.
So if women are the choosers, how are men the leaders?
Good question.
How can men lead if it's by women's terms?
I have no clue.
Are men leading when they subject themselves to rejection at a woman's discretion?
No.
So then why do we say that men are leaders when women are in control?
We want you guys to lead while we're still in control.
Thank you for being honest.
Yes, thank you very much for being honest. And I got to point out, that girl's a good solid 7, maybe an 8.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally millions of guys that would hear her say that and then go try to impress her. Do anything they could to get with a hot one like that.
Yeah, red flags galore.
Yes, and she's throwing red flags, throwing them, and they're red flags that have a rock wadded up in them, and she's throwing them directly in men's faces. And these guys will take the blow from the rock and say, "What's your sign, baby? Do you like sushi? Let's go."
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. Why is it that men will reluctantly accept their fate anytime an injustice is pointed out? It is what it is, or that's just part of being a man?
Run that by me one more time.
Why is it that men will reluctantly accept their fate anytime an injustice is pointed out? It is what it is, or that's just part of being a man?
I think that's the romantic conditioning. We are conditioned not to do battle with women. I mean, I have lots of guys that come, they're in terrible divorces and all kinds of things going wrong, family members turning on them, and they're not fighting. They're not struggling to try to come out of this hole and alive. And they live by this mentality, well, if I just give her way, then that'll be the least damaging scenario. It's an absolute shame. But I think it's because, I mean, men, if I do battle in public with a woman and it gets hostile or intense or anything like that, and I shut her down, there's going to be a million guys that'll say I'm a terrible person, no matter what she says, no matter what she does. And that is a pretty strong social force for men. Men don't want to fight women, certainly not publicly, because of the way they'll be judged and criticized for it. And they're often right in that way, in that any efforts they make to fight frequently get turned around and used against them, often legally. So I think it's the conditioning.
One thing I also wanted to comment about on this clip is this is basically a visual representation of how dating works. It's basically men compete, women choose. This is what we see going on in our current culture. And the reason I create these visual representations is because some people can't be told these things. They can only be shown. And so when you see it in 1080p and you see the follow-up questions, and it's plain as day.
Agreed. It's plain, and there's only a small fraction of men that will ever take constructive action about any of it.
The 5%.
5% of the 5%, buddy.
Yes.
The rest of them will go right back to, please, ma'am, may I have another? And it's a shame, but that's what they do.
Okay, and then this is the last question, or it's like a
Okay.
two-part. It's basically like a two-part, but basically it's okay. Why are men willing to fight in unions for their race? Sorry, why are men willing to fight in unions and for their race, but not their gender? And how
Because
can
they're
you?
not,
Yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, well, okay. One more time. Why are men willing to fight in unions and for their race, but not their gender?
For the same reasons that men will coalesce to build pyramids and dig the Panama Canal and create civilization, men and form armies and wage great wars, men will fight for anything except themselves. It is, go ahead.
Go on, sorry. No, and then I was just going to follow up and say, how can you fight your oppression when you're in love with your oppressor?
Well, by finding your spine and your huevos. That's how you do it. And your boundaries, your sense of dignity. I think the first casualty of romance is men's self-respect. They have to bury it because you can't be that servile, that obsequious to women and maintain self-respect. But more pointedly, to answer your question, men are as far as we know in the universe, they're the most powerful things that had ever existed, especially in numbers. They do amazing things, but they will not fight for themselves, and they certainly won't fight against women for themselves. That's why you see feminism has gone rampant and haywire, and misandry is just on insane levels throughout the culture. And men say, "Please, ma'am, may I have another?" This is what I'm here for, is to be your whipping boy. I wish I could explain it all. I can't, but I know that's what happens. But I think it has a lot to do with something that if I stand out, and I have other men try to correct me and shut me down all the time because of the things that I say about the sexes. And the truth is, I'm 10 times harder on men than I ever am on women. It doesn't matter. I could talk about men and their frailties and their problems all day long, but you mentioned something about a woman, and man, everybody starts listening and ready to shut you down, because men cannot tolerate the idea of breaking that romantic ethos in a public way. I think that's at the root of it. I do believe that.
Yeah, basically, I asked the question, how do you address women's sense of entitlement without first addressing men's sense of obligation?
I don't think you can. And of course, we're really good. I mean, society is full of a lot of really very good boys because they're quite obedient in not addressing women's narcissism or entitlement or their unrealistic expectations of men. As a matter of fact, they're busy trying to fulfill those unrealistic expectations. So again, these are self-inflicted wounds. And so when I point out things about women, and I think the things I point out are quite accurate, it's not to be down on women. If men can't find their ball sack, they can't find it. I'm sorry, but it's not women doing that to them.
So that wraps up my questions for you, Paul. And I learned a lot, and that was amazing. Thank you. Now it's going to be a tough act to follow as you grill me.
As a matter of fact, we're going to really get down to it here. I've got questions for you, my friend.
Okay.
And we're going to start out with a couple of easy ones, but they're going to get progressively, hopefully as hard as the ones you ask me. Something very basic. What's the core mission of It's Complicated? And what are you trying to expose with your street interviews?
Awareness. I want more people to understand that the game isn't just what you've been told, like, just be the nice guy. I mean, obviously you have to understand that women have changed and men are going to have to get with the program if they're going to, just navigate the world, I guess. And if they want to adapt, that's one thing. I mean, if they want to step up and change the system, that might be necessary. I don't know, but I just don't want them to think that women are still sugar and spice, and men are the problem, and women are totally just innocent in this.
So you're putting a lot of reality in plain view. And this is, I mean, you know, reality TV is one of the most fake things that they've ever put on TV. It's not reality. This is, to me, what John does is reality TV. He actually gets real people to give real answers to questions, and we're seeing some of that now.
I don't even, one more thing, and I don't even think social media is entirely real either. I think there's a lot of stuff that's just made for clickbait, and I never give people the questions in advance because I want that authenticity.
Right, exactly. And it works. Why do you think short, simple questions often reveal more truth than long-form debates about men and women?
Well, first off, I think we live in a short attention span economy where people just have a hard time digesting things if they're drawn out too long. So I just try to keep things short and then maybe ask follow-up questions in order to lead to certain conclusions that I'm driving at.
Okay. What double standards between men and women show up most often in your interviews?
These are good questions. I guess the double standards that people will say they want equality, but then they are just pushing double standards constantly.
So, I mean, as we've seen just in the little samples that we put on here, the double standards are the norm.
The double standard is the standard.
Yes, yes, without double standards, they'd have no standards. What are the most unrealistic expectations you hear women place on men in dating, money, marriage, or commitment?
I would say that the most unrealistic, well, I mean, obviously a lot of men are going by the idea of the rule of sixes, that women want 6 feet tall, six-pack abs, six-figure income, things like that. But I would just say that, you know, a lot of women are outperforming men in a lot of spheres in our society. I mean, women are doing great in college and the workforce and things like that, and they're still, you know, claiming to be victims in all of this. So that's kind of the biggest double standards that I see.
Well, yeah, and I guess part of what you're saying is that women have been granted all these opportunities, and they're free to do as they please in life, to make money, to get educated, to do whatever. But somehow that doesn't translate to bringing any value to relationships.
Well, even the idea of, I think it's called a Schrodinger's feminist, where women are empowered victims. So it's just, they're walking contradictions, basically.
Yeah, if you haven't read up on Schrodinger's feminist, just do a Google search on it. It'll give you some good stuff to read. What surprises you more, women expressing entitlement or men being willing to comply with it?
Let me think about that one more second. I think men complying, but I almost think that, you know, if men don't comply, then they just get deselected. I mean, you know, you have to basically, like women will enforce these gender roles, and then if men say, I'm not doing that, then what other options do they have? I mean, the only power it seems like men have is to walk away. It's not like there's some magical place where there's a whole bunch of women who don't expect men to serve them. And if there was, then men would flock there.
Is that because men would rather be slaves than be alone?
I think a lot of men do. I think a lot of men settle for what they can get. I think that men submit to women's terms. I don't think that women are submitting to men. I think that women are the ones who have the options and the leverage. Women are coming from an abundance mindset. Men are coming from a scarcity mindset. And that's why I think the manosphere pushes self-improvement so much, is it's trying to basically flip the script so that men are in the position to be the choosers. But I don't think average men have that leverage until they, I mean, most of the advice that you get is coming from a place of, okay, now that I've crossed the finish line, now I have all the choices. But until you get to the finish line, the only advice you're going to get from every single creator is get to the finish line.
Right, where the women are waiting to
Yes.
to have sex with the winners.
And of
Uh,
course, those are all women worth having for some reason.
Yes, yes. The women waiting at the finish line after you've done, they cannot see everything you went through to get to that finish line, and they don't care about it. They just care about you finishing that line and being one of the alpha winners, so that they can select you, and you're supposed to think that's a good deal.
That's why I asked the question, like, what is the difference between a lot of this male self-improvement versus just sculpting yourself as a tool to be used by women?
Why do you think so many men still accept one-sided expectations even when they know that the bargain is bad?
Because that's just part of being a man. That's masculinity. They just say this is just what comes with it. This is the burden of performance, I suppose. And I think that men are going to receive shame from women and other men if they don't conform to society's expectations of manhood.
I think you're absolutely right. Brian, do we have one more clip, I think?
Well, we have the one that we played at the beginning. You want me to play that
No.
one again?
Okay, no, we played them all then. That's fine. I just lost track. Have your interviews changed your own view of modern women, modern men, or the dating marketplace?
In some ways, when I first started doing this, I questioned to myself, if people became more aware of all the double standards, how much would actually change? And, I coming from a place of, women actually liking men or believing that that was the case, I would assume that, okay, well, maybe women are not aware of the struggles that men go through. So if they became more aware of some of those things, they would have empathy and they would kind of give guys a break. But it kind of seems like they don't care. They're just, man up or move on.
Fair enough. What question do you ask that most reliably exposes contradiction, hypocrisy, or lack of self-awareness?
Who's the prize? I mean, I've asked
Why
that so
is-
many times. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, why does that question in particular pop up for you when I ask it?
Well, I mean, I noticed that in straight relationships, it's the man has all these expectations, but you're going to see much more of an equal partnership in same-sex couples. And so it's just kind of ironic to me why we just assume that the women are in this elevated position, especially in a time where women are screaming for equality. Like, why do they seem to want equality? Like, when I first started doing this, I thought, okay, why do women seem to want equality in everything except for dating? But then now that I have learned more from my interviews, it seems like women don't even want equality in other things outside of dating because they just want all their privileges met.
Yeah, it's hard to have equality when privilege is the guideline.
Well,
I think it's also really interesting that you see these guys talking about, you hear Manospherians say, you're the prize. You got to recognize that you're the prize. Now get out there and do everything she wants to see and be so you can impress her because you're the prize. In other words, you're the prize, but go treat her like she's the prize. And that's what they do.
Well, and when I first started doing this, I was only focusing really on the contradictions in feminism. But then as I learned more, I noticed that there's contradictions with these tradcons, there's contradictions with these red pillars. I mean, to this day, you still have red pillars saying chivalry is dead and feminism killed it. And if you look around you, chivalry is very much alive and well, because it's like, how can chivalry be dead when simping is alive and well? And then, outside of just relationships, you've got chivalry in our courts, you've got chivalry in laws that are being passed, all sorts of things. So, if we're still gynocentric and putting women first, chivalry is our entire culture.
$421 billion annually in entitlement entitlement spending on single mothers in America. Nearly $500 billion a year annually, and people say chivalry is dead. Absolutely amazing.
Paul,
Chivalry.
how do you come to those numbers, by the way? Because someone asked me to ask you that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get you a source. It's from one of the government departments. But I'll get the source for you and email it to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it's a massive amount. I was just wondering if you had any kind of more detail on that, because I wanted to look into that a little further.
Not off the top of my head. I read this, I think, about a year ago, and I can't remember the agency where it was from, but it was from one of the major government agencies.
Sure. Okay.
But I'll get that to you, and now that you've asked, I'll be sure to bring it up and give the source on the next show, because I want people to know this is legit. It's hard to imagine talking about a society where chivalry is dead, and we're squandering all this incredible amount of money to pay women to have babies outside of marriage and to run the father out of the home, because they don't collect their welfare check if the man lives with them. He's got to be out. It is designed, and I think designed particularly to assault the Black community with fatherless children. That's the intent behind that, but that's another topic entirely. Where is the line between holding women accountable and simply becoming bitter and hostile toward women?
You know, it's funny because I think you were on a podcast with Jeff St. James, and he said to you, Paul, do you hate women? And I think you just said, no, I just understand women. But holding women accountable has become synonymous with hating women and misogyny. So it's like if you... Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. Where is the line between holding women accountable and simply becoming bitter and hostile toward women? I mean, this applies to a lot of guys with red pill rage, which they come by honestly. I mean, it's like we got to give that to them.
Yeah.
But I think the point of my question is there seems to be a real difference between honestly assessing what's going on with both sexes and talking about it, and giving women the same agency, giving them the equality that they've been demanding for 60 years, and holding them to account in the same way that you would hold a man. That's not bitter, but there is a lot of bitterness.
I think bitterness comes from entitlement. I feel like if you feel like you're owed an outcome and you don't get that outcome, then bitterness is going to follow. I really think that having the dignity and strength to walk away and say, I'm not going to settle for, an unfair deal or something like that. I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, for a second I was thinking, okay, does it come down to whether or not she finds you attractive or something like that? But I mean, this is really more about, men's interpretation of a situation. So I think it really just comes down to entitlement.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, I just want to add this to my own question, is that the bottom line on it is that if you're honest about women's behavior, if you publicly discuss it in any meaningful way, you're going to get accused of being bitter, no matter what. So my take on that is I might as well do it, because they're going to call me a hater whether I hate or not, and I don't hate anybody.
Well, and also I'll even say that I've gotten a lot more respect from just being honest and calling out the double standards and the BS. So, I mean, there are many women who follow my channel and like what I do, and you don't have to be hateful and bitter. You just have to basically just have a pair of balls and just say, look, this is my boundaries and that's that. But you don't have to necessarily be angry. And I try not to come across that way in my interviews. I just want to basically.
And I think you're incredibly successful at it. It's one of the things I really like, is that I don't get a sense that you're just some angry dude ready to pounce at the wrong answer and try to embarrass and humiliate people. You allow the people you interview to talk, and any embarrassment they might have comes out of their own mouths. It's not from anything you're doing. So I think
the difference between challenging and judging. Sorry.
Sure. And I think you carry that off quite well. Finally, last question. What should a man do once he sees the modern gender contract clearly?
Well, decide if you want long-term, short-term, if you obviously, want to get into a serious relationship, obviously avoid legal marriage. I think that you have to know about all the potential booby traps. But I mean, are we getting to a ridiculous place in society where we have to wear body cameras because you don't know if you're safe with this woman and things could, I could have done this or I could have done that. So I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of I would still say choose who chooses you, like who likes you, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. Because if you're trying to pursue somebody and win them over, it's a losing battle every time.
And hopefully, guys, you come to a point when you see this contract clearly that you're just going to choose you for at least a while. That your values, your priorities, your needs in life, the things you want to do, your dreams and ambitions. If the only dream and ambition you have is to have a woman, you might want to rethink your life. At least that's my 2 cents. Women are great. I love having a woman. I've loved women my whole life, but the contract, one of the things that we sort of concluded in talking to Matt Cross is that PUA is dying because there's so little worth picking up left. Guys are even walking away from that in disgust. I'd try to encourage a different take for not to give up on it, but take some time, work on yourself, figure out who you are, what you want, start pursuing it in life, start a path of self-actualization instead of other validation, which is what the romantic model puts you into. And that way, whether you are lucky and find a woman like some of us have, or whether you don't, you're still going to be okay. That's what I think. Anyway, Brian, do we have any comments?
Oh, yes. Got a lot here, so let me just make sure everybody can hear me. Yes. All right, first I'll give you the super chats.
Okay.
We got a few of those. Fang Yuan Taoist Gu gave us, and I'm just reading it as it's written, gave us 100 Indian rupees. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And says, City of Mumbai was given as dowry to King Charles II of England in 1661 by Portuguese royalty Catherine.
So I'd say that's coming with some value.
That's a city. It's a whole city.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sufyan Fanin gives us 10 pens. I think that I looked it up and now I forgot what that is, but it's a different kind of currency.
Okay.
Thank you. He gave
Whatever
us
it is, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sufyan. Go follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Sufyan so gives us 1 for 10 pens and says, great content, fellas. Paul, is MGTOW the best path forward for men? And would a term like masculine MGTOW help people see it as a principled choice worthy of respect?
Probably not. I think the idea of men taking care of themselves is still so unpopular in society that no matter what you call it, if it involves going your own way and taking care of your own priorities, people are going to try to shame and ridicule it. They have throughout history. That's something that we covered last time too, that MGTOW isn't new. People have been doing it for a while. It's interesting to note, though, that we didn't have any bachelor movements, which is what MGTOW is. That stuff never happened until after the Romantic ethic. There were no bachelor movements before there. There was no need for them. But after they stacked the deck in the game between men and women, men started walking away very quickly, and they were shamed and ridiculed just like they are now.
I don't know if you wanted to say anything to that too, John.
Well, I was just saying that as far as becoming a bachelor, I had something and I lost it. I'm sorry.
Well, I think I want to get back to more the point of his question was, is MGTOW the way? I don't think there's the way on anything in life. It is a way. It is something I suggest that all men do for a period of time just to get their house in order in terms of who they are and to learn to be comfortable in their own skin without a woman around. I think if you can't do that, you're always going to be coming at relationships from a deficiency position.
I remember what I was going to say, by the way.
Okay, go ahead.
Just, would a MGTOW man be the equivalent of an independent woman? Because I think there are differences there.
Yeah, I don't know if there's such a thing as an independent woman.
Yeah.
Well,
I was gonna say, I think they're. Well, if you don't mind, if you want.
No, I don't mind at all. Please.
Independent woman is just like a trademark that women use to cope with the fact that they really don't want to be independent. It's a coping mechanism. It's not a real thing, because even independent women they have an entire support network of men, orbiters, other women, family members. So they're not really living that way. Men generally do have to do that. So I don't think those are similar at all. I think an independent woman is a cope.
Yeah, and yet you don't see men walking around saying, "I'm a powerful, independent man."
Exactly. Yes.
They don't need to. They know they're on their own. So anyway, yeah, that's the best answer I think we can come up with.
And also I just wanted to say whether he said, would a term like masculine MGTOW help people see it as a principled choice? I don't think that you need to worry about like marketing MGTOW. That's basically playing into the hands of people who will hate you because you have made a choice about what you want to do with your own life. And no amount of branding is going to change that. So just be MGTOW, and it's good enough as it is, in my opinion. So,
well, couldn't you argue that having the principles to, enough strength to walk away from a bad deal is one of the most masculine things you could do?
Yes, but I don't disagree with that. But I think that he wants to make MGTOW more palatable for people by attaching masculine to the front of it. I think it's true to just like Paul said early on, the problem with, real manhood is it is a weapon used against men. And he said, that he is choosing to define it himself, which if I was going to butt in, I would have said, well, that's pretty masculine, because that is, where you're basically saying this is my life and I'm doing this my way and it's on my terms. Then that's it. You don't need other people to co-sign on that, to tell you, yes, you're doing this correctly or incorrectly. That's why I'm saying that you don't have to attach the term masculine to MGTOW to make it more masculine. It already is. It doesn't need help. So, in my opinion.
It doesn't. I agree with you entirely, Brian. I think that the point of MGTOW, hopefully at some point, is that you do not GAF what other people think about MGTOW. That you just do it.
Yes.
It's your life, and end of story. It's not even up for discussion. I don't care if it's palatable to you. That is the point of getting there with this.
I've seen some people conflate the MGTOW with black pill, though. Why did Jordan Peterson shame the MGTOWs and call them pathetic weasels, and then end up recanting that statement? Things like that. So sometimes MGTOW gets a bad rap.
Sure,
well, it does.
And you shouldn't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally the people who have the most shade to throw, I think they actually do use it on MGTOW the most, because they're the one group of men that they don't have any way of controlling.
Well,
so
it's-
they just call them losers, and they don't care. I mean, even incels could probably like learn something from that, to be honest. Like, but I'm sorry, this isn't my show.
Well,
This
and
is
I don't
yours.
want to change topics, but hopefully incels at some point will quit calling themselves incels, because what they're literally doing is defining their very existence by being rejected.
Yes.
And to me, it's like, guys, look, I get where you're coming from on a lot of things, and I'm on the same page with a lot of things I've seen incels say, but these guys that literally take on the identity of being a woman's reject, you're missing the plot here. Sorry, no offense, man, but that's what I think.
Yeah. All right. Another super chat from Sufyan for another 10 pens says, John, do the women you interview ever tell you they find your questions exhausting? Are women starting to realize that men have had enough of their shit? Thanks again, gentlemen. Sorry, should I not have read that part?
Oh, well, that's okay. We'll survive it.
Okay.
Yes, obviously, I have to kind of start with easy questions, or I have to give, preface things by saying these are controversial questions, because if you push too hard too soon, people will hand me the microphone and say, this interview's over and we don't want to continue this. So I have to kind of tread lightly and know when and how to push back on a lot of my interview subjects. So yes, that's definitely happened. But I think I've improved at going under the radar and being kind of stealth mode and getting people to open up rather than, punch me in the face. I mean, that's never happened, but I'm just saying that, I'm trying to get an answer out of them.
Well, there was the
instead of just,
cowboy that I think wanted to punch you in the face.
Well, that's what's kind of funny, actually, is sometimes I've triggered men more than I've triggered women. Believe it or
believe
not,
that.
because it's interesting. They, they're the agents of the Matrix, if you will,
Well put. I like that.
or the foot soldiers of gynocentrism.
They are indeed. Let's keep going, Brian.
Another super chat from Dennis Green 6222 for $10 Australian. And
Thank you,
he
Dennis.
says, greetings again from the gynocentric ghetto of Australia. Brian, Tom, and Paul, thank you for fighting the good fight. Cheers to all you legends in the chat.
Thank you. I think that's John, not Tom, but
it says Dennis. It says Dennis Green. Oh, I may. Yeah. It's John, not Tom. Yeah, you misspelled.
Okay.
Maybe in Australia, all the Johns are called Toms.
that works. Anyway, thank you, Dennis. Appreciate the comment from down under.
All right, Mountain Man Tops gives us $9.99 and says, welfare state has been attacking the Hispanic community as well. Look at the patterns it has been causing in the Hispanic community, very similar to blacks in the 60s and onward.
I believe it. I mean, there's a reason that the streets are filling with gangs, and that minority communities are the ones that are most caught up in this dependency cycle with the state. I think it's intentional, completely intentional. I think they want to destroy families. And I don't see how you can look at our family court system, look at the welfare state, look at the entitlement spending for single mothers, and not conclude that they don't want nuclear families to exist.
All right. We got one from This Is Shah for $9.99.
Oh,
Says,
Shah!
this has been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you, Shah.
It has.
Shout out to Shah, man. He's the best.
Everybody go follow Shah.
Definitely. I'm subscribed to all of you guys. And then we got one from Caesar Quintana, 4596, 1999. No comment. He just sent the money through. So
Caesar is, gosh, I love this guy.
Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar is right. This is a man of strong character. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him personally. If the world was full of guys like that, we would be doing a lot better than we are.
All right, that's all the super chats.
Okay.
I have a couple of like regular comments that I thought were kind of interesting.
Okay.
Paralysis Analysis 2287 said, this is earlier. These are all from earlier. You want to know what total female control looks like? Public education.
And it's going so well.
Yes. Another one.
I think what our high school graduates are reading at a second grade level now.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because most early schooling teachers are women, and every man has a mother. So, why are women complaining about men who don't know how to treat women when women pretty much have all this influence over the next generation?
So there were some people in the chat talking about MGTOW guys that have done great things, and as a blanket statement, a lot of people brought up the Wright brothers. So that's another example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did they do?
Then we got, let's see, Amjiva said earlier, if only we could resurrect Patrice O'Neill and have him on the show.
That would be awesome.
It would have been.
Yes, it would have.
The big Steve said, left is here and definitely red-pilled on gynocentrism. My only disagreements are men holding themselves accountable to the standards they want of women, but Paul is a refreshing perspective.
Well, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it.
Libra7624 said, all the guys in the Manosphere are fools except Paul Elam and Tom Likas. Only those two are worth listening to.
Wow, that's high praise. Puts me in really good company. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
That's basically it. I mean, yeah, mostly people are, agreeing with the conversation, enjoying it quite a bit. Talking about Red Pill Rage a little bit. And, but otherwise, yeah, I think that's those are the highlights.
We need to do a show on Red Pill Rage sometimes. I think that's a worthwhile topic. We're going to get to it. John, first, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. I know we're in prime hours for you to be on the street right now. We're probably taking you away from your job.
Still too hot.
It's still too hot. Good. Okay, maybe we're giving you a break, but I really do appreciate the time. And I appreciate, people don't realize what you do is work. It's real work, hitting those streets, doing this stuff, all the post-production work and everything in order to give us a glimpse into the psyche of average people on the street and what they really think. And I think you do a bang-up, exceptional job at it. I want to thank you for that, for spending your time here, and offer you the floor if there's anything else you would like to add before we sign out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate that. They're very kind words. I just want to say that a lot of times I'll walk around for hours and I might not get a single piece of content. And so I'm still out there, and I'll approach people and have just conversations that I don't even film. A lot of footage that I have ends up on the cutting room floor. I mean, I really have to sift through just hours and hours of sometimes just content that I film or just conversations that I don't film, just to try to get the pieces that are going to, put together this narrative like a little patchwork quilt, so I can get right to the point. You don't have to sit here. And I mean, sometimes people will have these podcasts that go on for 6 hours to get to this one little clip. And I just I understand that people's time is very precious, very valuable. So, I want to try to pack in as much information to as little time as possible, so people will get the point, and it's just question, answer until you see the big picture of what is going on, instead of having to, I want to take the work out of your hands and take on that burden myself. So I make it easy for you guys to just watch this and see what's going on and what you need to learn and see about how to move forward in this crazy gynocentric world that we're living in.
And it, by all rights, it should be an easy job, because all you have to do, you watch through his videos, all you have to do is listen and leave your eyes open. It's right there on display for you. If you can't get it from that, again, you might want to rethink things. Anyway, with
Paul, do you mind? I got one more super chat that just
okay.
came through.
Super chat,
I think this one's too good to pass up. It's for John. So, Fan I Am gave $10 Australian and said, John, you should ask women where Jesus would have been on the attraction scale in his day, a perfect man, and then ask if he would be attractive to women today. So there you go. There's your challenge. Find out what women think of Jesus Christ. Is he like somebody they'd like to marry?
I love it.
Yeah, I believe I have done that. I forget what episode it was in, but I did ask that once. Would Jesus be considered a high value man? And I think the question was, I said like, what are the qualities of a high value man? And someone said, 6 feet tall, 6 figures or something. And then I said, okay, according to that logic, would Jesus be a high value man? And he's like, yes. I'm like, well, Jesus had 6 figures. Because, Jesus openly spoke against, what is it? It's easier for a poor man to pass.
Pass through the eye of a needle.
A rich man to pass through an eye of an evil than get into the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
So,
and Jesus did not have real possessions. So,
right.
If anybody, I don't think you're going to get an honest answer to that, but I agree with the commenter. I hope you do this again and press that question some more. It's a great one.
I also wanted to add one more thing also about my interviews is, a lot of the talking points that I bring up, I want to have a dedicated episode on my channel or a dedicated clip that shows exactly what I'm talking about. So once again, it's just having a visual representation, because some people, you try to tell them these things and they just don't get it. But when you see it and it's on display, you can't deny it anymore.
I agree. That's why you're here in my book. Well, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Thank you to all the super chats. Big thank you to Brian for producing, to John for showing up. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. I know I've had a blast with this. I think it was a really great discussion, and I look forward to having you back, John, and doing more of them. Next week, Pearl Davis right here, going to be going at it with the stir of the millennia right here on Repairing the Manosphere. As always, hope you've enjoyed, even if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.
Why don't women have a burden of performance to become better partners if they don't want to be viewed as a mere sexual object?
I think we like sexuality, and we are objects. We're all objects. And just take your role and go with it.
How would you feel if society expected women to always pay for men, open doors, and protect them physically, not as a choice but as a duty? Would that still feel like romance or feel like an unfair burden placed on women?
I feel like we need the men to do that. It's for security.
Why is it not an unfair burden when that's placed on men?
Because that's the roles. It's gender roles. I give you the pussy and you open the doors.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Support the channel. Stay strong.